Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Rumbleverse for the channel, and in today's exhibition match on one of the other mats available for the game. I think this is meant to look like a kind of back alley thing. There's concrete and loose slabs and it'll be very painful to get thrown into. It's going to be the Green Bruisers, or at least 90% the Green Bruisers, which is the other half of the starter set, versus 90% of Kaiser's Palace with a free agent, so that's just what we're going to refer to them as. Also, most of the starter set there as well. We'll go into the specifics for both sides in a second though. A correction on the previous videos though has now been pointed out on one page of the rulebook, I've forgotten which. For rope attacks, for unique rope attacks, you don't throw in the extra copper die for them. That's only if you're doing just the generic action of a rope attack. So in some cases it might not be as worth it doing the special versions if you're getting just a copper on top of a pretty decent attack stat, because you'll be rolling more dice and potentially rolling nice and high. So it does add another bit of a layer there where sometimes you might not want to do the unique attack, but that has been something that's been getting done wrong and will now be getting done correctly. So on this side of the ring we have mostly the Green Bruisers. There's supposed to be two little goblins, I think one's a brawler, one's a grappler as well. They're not done yet, so taking their place is a single star wrestler named Goba, I presume, or Goba, but I presume it's Goba because it's a parody of Yoda. And he's very powerful, he's small but strong. His dex is 3 gold, his defense is 3 gold. He's very defensively focused though, and he can force people to move, no pun intended, around the ring, friend or foe. He doesn't have much health though, so if they do manage to get through his decent stats, it won't take much for him to get out of the ring. But he's actually worth exactly what the other two goblins would have been to bring along, so it works out pretty well. This is just a standard orc brawler to match the brawler on the human side in the starter box, and that is a grappler to match the grappler in the human side of the starter box. And instead of an ogre, they have a troll, who is absolutely gigantic. Like, you can kind of tell, because he's on bended knee. If he was standing up, he would be absolutely massive. So that's why they've got them in that kind of weird, kind of crouch, ready to punch pose. But they're super sturdy, bunch of health, and kind of similar to Granite on the opposite side there that we can look at now. So this is a setup for Kaiser's Palace that we've already seen, with Granite here, the free agent, taking the place of the two halflings. The two halflings seemed fine last time they were on. One of them did something very funny in particular, but I like Granite, so we're bringing him, and that brings us to the million on the dot, I believe, for both sides. Both sides are, though, getting a free randomised event card. Have not looked at them, and from the second round onwards, they can choose to bring those into effect. So other than free agent Granite, we've got the Ogre, we have the human brawler, and the human grappler. So outside of the star players, everything should be pretty much even. Like, the ogre and the troll are essentially, I mean, they differ obviously in some ways, but they're more or less the same. So they should be on par with each other. Same with the brawler, same with the grappler. So we should have a pretty even match. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. So after that word from our channel sponsor, we are back and set up with the Green Bruisers into the lower left and the Kaiser's Palace team onto the top right. And then it became time to pick which wrestler is going to be rolling and for dex rolls. And it was the brawler here right up against the turnbuckle for the Green Bruisers, who has a dex of 2 copper and managed to roll a 0, which is pretty easy to beat. Although they actually wanted to get beat, which is why they picked that. The human brawler was chosen for Kaiser's Palace. He rolls a silver and a bronze and managed to get 3. So they'll be going first in Ding Ding round 1. Pins and throwouts, and if it goes to round 5, whoever's got the most value of team left in the ring, as per usual. So, bell's already rung, let's start throwing hands. Well, not wishing to make it too easy for him to get punched in the face, the human brawler was a bit coy with his movements, simply just moving along here, and for lack of anything better to do with this 4 AP, he spent one of it, because he is popularity 1, on attempting to do his crowd pleaser. However, the crowd were not on his side, they booed him, and as a result, all he got for his trouble was -1 AP next time he activates. If he had gotten away with the crowd pleaser though, all friendly wrestlers' rope attacks would deal +1 damage till the end of the, is it the round? end of this wrestler's next activation. So if he went late the second turn, it would be 2 full turns. Would have been really handy to get off, but no. Well, the crowd are showing their bias already, because when the Orc Brawler activated, he spent 1 of his 4 AP, he's a 4-4 for movement and AP, to climb the corner turnbuckle here, and then he initiated for 2 AP, because he's popularity 2, his Crowd Pleaser, and he got away with it, rolling a cheer. So his Crowd Pleaser, all friendly wrestlers gain 1 movement point counter this turn, so it's just +1 move to everybody. It matters for the Troll because he's normally movement 3, so he's up to 4. Goba is up to 6, and the Grappler is up to 5. Well, both sides are vying for the crowd's favour as the Ogre activated for Kaiser's Palace, moving his Mighty 3 down, spending 1 of his 3 AP to bounce off the rope, so forcible move 5 along, and then he spent his last 2 AP to do his Crowd Pleaser, and the crowd were on their side this time. So his Crowd Pleaser reads, every friendly wrestler receives +1 copper to their attack until the end of this wrestler's next activation. So he is buffing up his team. He's put himself in danger. He's definitely within punching range now, but he can hopefully take the blows. The Troll activated for the Green Bruisers next, trying to take advantage of the Ogre being within punching range with his +1 movement as well. He moved up, spent 1 of his 3 AP, he spent all of his AP, all 3, on his special version of rope attack called Blue Thunder. It has shove 5, but it needs to be successful. Rolls 1 of each die, 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 copper, and also does 3 damage. But the defense roll of 3 silver for the Ogre meant that he took no damage, so he just belly flopped into them and they just batted off each other. Well, there's a lot more positioning going on this time. Granite was up next for Kaiser's Palace, immediately spending 1 of his 3 AP to bounce off the rope for 5, and then made his way down using what little movement he has. He has 3 move as well, to just get into position here to try and cut off them slipping around the Ogre. So Goba activated next for the Green Bruisers. We're going to have to do his turn in steps. He's not quite done yet. He immediately bounced off the ropes for 2 of his 5 AP, doing his special version of a rope attack called Do It. It has the jump special rule and the rocket special rule, so you can just hop over people's heads and can go 8 spaces. He stopped when he met the Ogre though. It's 3 silver dice for 1 damage. 3rd silver die isn't there because it rolled a blank and it was required for the defense roll. So he managed to get 5, and the Ogre only managed to get 3, so that is his first point of stamina damage right there. He then spent 2 AP, leaving him with 1. To do There Is No Try, you pick an enemy wrestler and immediately move them up to 3 squares in any direction. He picked Granite because he's slow and made him walk over to the rope. He thinks he's cheering at the crowd or getting them going. He's forgot that there's a fight going on. So he has 1 AP left and he's going to do a quick brawl attack and then we'll be back. Yeah, brawling is not his forte. He's definitely more about manipulation. His attack is just 2 copper and he whiffed, which does mean, with that roll of 4 on the Ogre's defense, that a reversal has happened. But when it's only by 4 that the defense roll is better, it just means his activation ends immediately. He was done anyway, so it doesn't really do anything in this instance. Final activation of the first town for Kaiser's Palace was the Human Grappler. Spent 1 AP to bounce 5, then he moved his 4, which got him right into the corner there, and then he paid another 1 of his AP to climb the turnbuckle up in the corner there. And then, with nothing else to do in his turn because he doesn't have enough AP left to actually do his turnbuckle attack, he tried to crowd please. The crowd booed him. They think he's just copying the orc in the bottom left corner, so he's just got -1 AP for his next turn. The crowd's still very much on the Green Bruisers side. And the final activation for the entirety of the first turn is the Orc Grappler, who moved into position, paid 1 AP to bounce off the rope into the Ogre here, getting 1 extra copper die on top of his 2 base. His attack stat is rubbish. He's a grappler, he wants to grapple, but still tried it, got 4, but that was beaten by a roll of 5. Now he still has enough AP left. How much did he use? He only used the 1, so he could actually safely do a couple of grapple attacks. After that it would turn into a dirty move, so he'd have to check to see if the crowd are still on their side. But we're going to do that now and see if he can do any damage via that. His grapple is 2 silver, 1 copper versus the Ogre's grapple of 1 gold, 1 silver, so it's still risky. And after rolling some dice out, these aren't all the dice that were rolled, had to again make exceptions because of the dice available, but that is the true defense rolls for both of the Ogre's defense rolls, 4 on the second one and 5 on the first. That is the roll for the second one. Both failed to do any damage. If they had got through, it would have only been 1. He does have a unique grapple attack, but it's only good if done earlier in the turn because it doesn't do any damage. It just reduces the target's defense to 0 because it puts him in a headlock, which would be quite a funny mental image. But that is it for the first round. So at the top of the second of a potential 5 rounds, each side had to pick whose dex roll they were rolling to activate first. The Orc Brawler was selected down here. That's still 2 copper, although he did pretty well with it, rolling 4 successes. The Human Grappler was selected for Kaiser's Palace, the one that's also on a turnbuckle. It's the argument of whose turnbuckle attack is going to do better. He rolls a silver and a copper and managed to get 5, so he is going first. However, both sides are going to be using their event cards before that, so we're going to turn them over live for both sides and see. This is the green Bruisers card, and it is tonight only Hyper Trainer. Pick a friendly wrestler for the rest of the game. All copper dice that this wrestler rolls are silver instead. Wow, that is really powerful. Who rolls the most silver? Goba and the Grappler does. It'd make the most sense to give it to the star wrestler, make him much more dangerous. So Goba, anytime he's rolling silver, doesn't even say for any particular attacks. Anytime he rolls copper, they're silver instead. That is ridiculously powerful. He's gone full Attack of the Clones mode. And then for the other side, it is like a rampaging dinosaur. Pick a friendly wrestler for the rest of the game. This wrestler has the rocket special rule on all rope attacks. That's going to Granite because that gives him the best chance to get back in the fight from being sent far away with his rubbish movement. So I think the Green Bruisers, not only are the crowd on their side, but whoever it was, the Hyper Trainer is on their side as well. The Hyperbolic Time Chamber. But it is Kaiser's Palace going first this round. An absolutely devastating start to the second round, and I'm not just saying that because the devastating rule is coming into effect. So the Human Grappler won the dex roll, he activates. He had a -1 AP counter, so he only had 3 to play with, but 3 is all he wanted. He spent all of it for his turnbuckle attack, which is a 450 splash with devastating. So what devastating means is it hits every wrestler adjacent to him, friend or foe, when he lands. Although actually, just realised that would also mean the ogre gets hit because diagonals count. The way turnbuckle attacks work is they have a range, and in this case it was 5. You count those hexes, and as long as it reaches an enemy wrestler, you then can land any square adjacent to that wrestler, so it actually takes you beyond the maximum range, which is how you get the most out of devastating, as I understand it. You roll the attack once, everybody hit by it rolls their defense, and then you apply damage, and any attack with devastating can't do beatdowns or reversals, so it doesn't apply, but it didn't matter here anyway. So the troll rolled a 4 against the roll of a 6, so he gets hit by it, and the Orc Grappler also got hit by it, and he did not get 6, so he's also getting hit. We're going to have to roll for the ogre now and see if he can beat 6 on his 3 silver. He got a 5, so unfortunately he's getting hit as well. That is bad because it does 3 damage. I think, yeah, that leaves the ogre on 6. The Orc Grappler, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he's got 8, so he's lost 3 of that now. And the Troll, I think, also has 10 health, so he'll be down to 7. Really good opener. Well, not to be outdone by the smelly humans, the Orc Brawler had to activate. It was his dex roll that got picked, and he did his turnbuckle attack into the Human Grappler. His original target was going to be the ogre. Also range 5. It's called Da Splat. It's 2 AP, 3 silver plus 1, so he had a total roll of 4 for 2 damage with knockdown. And the Human Grappler rolled Goose Egg on his defense roll, so that also means he lost the roll by 4, because that should be 4 with the plus 1. So it's plus 1 damage for 3 damage, leaving him on 4 health and knocking him down. We're not done yet though, because that only used up 2 of the Orc Brawler's 4 AP, so now he's going to beat him up while he counts his defense 0 from being knocked down, to see if then the Grappler or the Troll can just get a super easy pin. And 2 quick rolls later, this would have been an ideal opportunity to manage to get a beatdown because you're rolling against 0. But in both instances, the Brawler couldn't manage it. He did land hits though, each one just doing 1 damage. So that leaves the Human Grappler on the ground, still conscious though, with 2 stamina remaining. Things have taken a twist for the worst for Kaiser's Palace. The Ogre activated and just turned to face the grappler to try and do something to him to stop him activating next and just pinning the human grappler. So started by doing his unique grapple, which is a choke slam with knockdown for 2 of his 3 AP, a gold and a silver for that, plus 2 damage if it would have landed. He rolled a total of 3 going up against a grappler, so it was never going to be easy, and failed by 1. So then he just had to try and do a brawl attack, hoping that his gold, silver plus 1, so he had a total of 3, would do something, but not against a defense roll of 3 as well, so he managed to do absolutely nothing with his turn. Oh, as a little note, it is presumed that he doesn't count as being friendly to himself in this game, so he wouldn't be giving himself a copper die to his basic brawl. At best, it would mean the difference between 1 damage or not, because of what was rolled in the defense roll. So we're just going to play it that he doesn't affect himself with that, and at this point, with his activation ending, it now wears off. We'll be doing this turn in 2 parts here, but the Orc Grappler was up next. He immediately tried to pin, which means you have to roll the crowd pleasing die because he is conscious, or the human grappler is conscious. The cheer was rolled though, so the crowd were still on their side, and he rolled the best possible result that you can roll on 2 copper dice versus just a 2 from the human grappler, meaning he is out of there. But that only cost 1 of his AP. He also now, thanks to getting a wrestler out of the ring, gets to roll a crowd pleaser again, and he got it. This wrestler's grapple becomes 3 silver plus 1 until the end of his next activation. So all of this activation plus his next, he's even better at grappling. Now may be the time to try and do something funny to an ogre. So we're actually going to have to do the Orc Grappler's turn in 3 parts, because the way his crowd pleaser reads, it just makes his grapple stat 3 silver plus 1, but he's not doing his basic grapple. He's spending 1 AP on headlock to put the ogre in a headlock, which has set dice that isn't his grapple stat, so presumably you roll those instead, which is 2 silver and a copper. So that's what was rolled. He actually rolled really well with it anyway. The gold silver grapple stat of the ogre was not enough, so he's now trapped in a headlock. So that means for the duration of his activation, not until his next one, just this activation, the ogre is counting as 0 defense, and he still has 2 AP left because he spent 1 on. He has 2 left. He has 4. He paid 1 to pin, and headlock only costs 1 as well. So he's now going to do 2 brawl attacks. His brawl isn't great, but he's basically holding the ogre in a headlock and then gut punching him. Let's see how it goes. Well, he almost rolled as bad as it is possible to roll, but going up against a 0, a 1 is still good enough. So he did 2 more stamina damage in total across both attacks to the ogre, who now has 4 stamina remaining. Just want to point out, when he spent his 1 AP to pin the human grappler, there was a safer option for him, but it would have cost, so actually would have cost exactly the same. It would have cost 1 AP. He has this passive called Da Boss, which costs 1 AP, automatically lift it's a friendly, never mind, it's for throwing friendly wrestlers. I thought he had a free lift and throw, which means he could have just chucked the grappler out the ring, but no, it wasn't friendly. So the 1 AP in the pin was the most efficient way to do it, even though it risked the crowd saying no, rather than paying 1 to pick up and then 1 to throw. Oh man, this has been a rough round for Kaiser's Palace. Their free agent Granite activated, spending all his AP, all 3 of it, on his special version of a rope attack called Rockman Slam. But he has the rocket roll thanks to that event card, so he shot across the table right into the Orc Brawler, rolling 3 silver plus 1. Actually it's plus 1, so actually he got a 5, so at least it got through. Thought it didn't. So it got through for 2 damage of, I think he has 8 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He does, so he's down to 6 stamina. The newer cards for this game incidentally have a number next to the stamina, so you don't have to sit and count the boxes. But anyway, so that did get through for 2 damage, and it has a built-in crowd please. So let's see what that is, and it's a boo. The crowd did not like. The crowd must be 90% orcs. Must be. So, super quick activation for the troll followed. The big guy turns are always quick because they have so little AP, you can really only ever do one thing with them. So he moved against the rope. I know he hasn't actually moved, but this is what he did. And then he paid all his 3 AP to once again do Blue Thunder. 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 copper for 3 damage. This time rolling a 5 against the back to normal defense roll of the ogre, who rolled a 4. So it got him. It got him for 3, meaning he has 1 stamina left, but he also gets shoved by the force of the blow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that actually makes him come into contact with the rope. I think he might actually bounce off the rope, and not in a friendly way, like he can get attacked again if he comes back. So I'll look into that now, because that's his turn over. He spent all his AP. And it does also... Oh, and at the top of his turn he has a rule called Regeneration. You roll a silver die, and if it's a 1+, you replenish 1 stamina. He rolled a blank. So the troll is still at the same amount of damage as he was, with 7 health remaining. But he got a good smack in against the ogre there. Now, quickly going to read up about getting forced to bounce off the rope. So a quick look into the rules. Bounce from the ropes is on page 30, but it does specify if an enemy wrestler is either thrown into base contact with ropes or hit by an attack that forces them to move and their movement is interrupted by the ropes, such as a rule with the shove special rule, they're instead bounced. His movement wasn't interrupted. If it was shove 6, he would have been interrupted, at which point they immediately stop their movement in contact and they bounce back 5, and if they come into contact with an enemy wrestler, instead of them hitting the enemy wrestler hits them. But because he stopped just as he got to the rope, we don't get to see that. It would be pretty cool if it did, but not this time. Well, as it turns out, we actually are going to get to see that mechanic, and this has not been staged. It is actually just hilarious it's happened. Human Brawler, final activation for Kaiser's Palace. Had only 3 AP to play with thanks to getting -1 in the previous turn. Moved up into the corner here, spent one of them to bounce off the rope. Down here, spent his other 2 to do his unique bounce off the rope attack, which is just a classic clothesline into the back of the troll. Only rolled 2 on what he was rolling. Oh, actually, should have had an extra silver? No, because that was a named one, so you just rolled the base. And the troll did very well with his 2 copper, 1 silver defense, beating the roll by 5. And that means it's a reversal. And if you beat an attack with a defense roll of 5 or better, well, 5, because there is actually even worse things that can happen, their activation immediately ends. They take 1 damage and shove 2. So there's the bad part. So that's 1 stamina damage to him. He gets shoved as the troll count turns around and wonders what hits him. His move is interrupted by the rope and he bounces right back into them. So now we actually do need to read that page and see what happens. Immediately stop their movement in base contact with the rope and move them 5 squares directly away from the rope that interrupted the movement. Attacker's choice of the wrestlers in base contact with 2 ropes. If this movement is interrupted by an enemy wrestler, it is immediately stopped as normal, and the stationary wrestler, i.e. the troll in this case, makes a rope attack against the moving wrestler with +1 copper to attack stat as normal. We'll be back after we roll that out. Well, things go from bad to worse for the Human Brawler. His double silver defense roll was a 2, but that doesn't stand up against what the troll rolled, the roll plus the copper. That's just his attack is 2 silver, 1 gold, meaning he beat him by, what, 7? 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. So that is a beatdown by 7, which is +2 damage and knockdown. So by default, the rope attack would do 1, so that's 3 damage in total. With the 1 extra he already took, he's down to 3 stamina remaining, and he just boom, gets belly flopped, or runs into the hide of the troll, and is basically in the danger zone now. Oh dear. And to take us to the end of the second turn, Goba activated, and immediately spent 2 of his 5 AP on There Is No Try to say to Granite, hey, the crowd likes you, go wave at them. So he wandered down here 3 squares to do that, confusing him once again. That meant he could sneak by here with some diagonal movement to move into base to base with the Human Brawler there. Initiate a brawl would normally be 2 copper, but that upgrade from the event card means he's rolling 2 silver, and it was against a roll of 0 because he's knocked down, so he did 1 damage through, and it was also a beatdown with a difference of 4 for +1 damage. Wanted to knock him out, didn't quite manage it, left him on 1 stamina. So that meant when he then went for the pin, which the crowd was for, because of course they are, he was only rolling 1 because he's very light, and he was going up against 2 for the weight class of the Human Brawler. If he had knocked him out, it would have been a straight 1 copper versus 1 copper. But such as it is, as soon as the little goblin tried to do the pin, the Human Brawler managed to kick him off. They're desperately going to want to go first in the next round though to try and get back up, otherwise he's just going to have a troll sit on him. So here we are at the top of turn 3 of a potential 5, but I don't think this is going to go 5 turns. I think this is the first one is not going to go the distance. And Dex rolls. Nothing else to cover besides that. The human brawler who's knocked down desperately wanted to go, so he rolled a silver and a copper. But Goba is wanting to activate first for the green bruisers, and he is Dex 3 gold, which is basically the I am going first button. It would be you'd have to roll the equivalent of 3 ones to have the worst possible result on those dice, which can happen, but did not this time. So Goba is definitely activating first. Does not bode well for the brawler, and even if it does somehow manage to survive, Granite's confused, waving at the crowd. The ogre has 1 stamina left as well. It's really not looking good for them. So Goba activated, and we had a lot of stuff happening, so we need a bit of a wide shot. First of all, he once again made Granite go look at the crowd because he's just confused and letting his team die by using There Is No Try for 2 of his 5 AP. He spent 1 on a brawl attack, normally rolling 2 copper but rolling 2 silver against a defense of 0 because of him being knocked down. It got through for the 1 stamina he had left, knocking the human brawler out. At which point he then spent his last 2, actually he still had 1 more after that, doesn't matter, but he spent 1 on a lift. Don't need to check the crowd pleaser die because the target of the lift is unconscious, so it automatically passes that part. Then you just roll grapple, and if you're lifting an unconscious wrestler, it's simply against their weight. So on 2 silver dice he had to beat 2, which he did. And then for 1 more AP, he's using his mind, I would imagine, not his strength. He is chucking them 2, which sends the human brawler right out of the ring, and that means that they are out of the match. At this point though, there is a crowd please. The crowd's been on their side the whole time. Yep, they still continue to be. So what is Goba's crowd pleaser? Immediately remove all minus AP, minus MP, bleeding and knockdown counters from all friendly wrestlers. So he has a full status heal if he gets a crowd pleaser. Such as it is, it's not required. And his turn actually isn't over because he hasn't used any of his movement yet. So he'll probably be somewhere else when we come back, although it is now over to the Ogre or Granite. So that's where Goba ended up. Of those 2, Granite activated, moving into position on the rope and taking advantage of him having Rocket for the match thanks to his event card. He bounced off with super speed, spending all 3 of his AP on Rumbleslam once again, slamming into the Orc Brawler with 3 silver plus 1, so he got 4. And the Brawler actually rolled goose eggs. Rolled absolutely nothing on his defense, so it normally does 2 damage, but because it was beaten by 4, it did 3, leaving him on 3 stamina remaining, which is the closest any of the green bruisers are to being unconscious, and that does not bode well. So we're not done with his turn yet, but we'll do it in parts. The Orc Grappler activated, he used his movement to get adjacent to the Ogre there, who just needs to take 1 hit. And the Orc Grappler's crowd pleaser is still in effect, where his grapple is, instead of 2 silver and a copper, is 3 silver plus 1. So he rolled a 6 trying to grapple the Ogre, who is in his own right good at grappling. And he actually rolled almost perfect and was able to successfully dodge the first attempt. But that was only 1 AP, he has 3 left, so he's going to attempt another one. And then if he still hasn't knocked out the Ogre, he's going to get desperate and maybe try and punch them. Well, the next attempt at a grapple has failed. He rolled a total of 6 versus a total of 6 from the Ogre. He is just taking those grapple attempts and laughing them off. But he's only got 2 copper for attack. He has got 2 AP left. He is going to try and grapple again, which means he has to check if the crowd are on his side. They've been on their side for the whole match, and they still are. He gets to try again. You know what, let's roll it live. So that is 5, because it's plus 1, versus 4. He finally did it. He did it with a basic grapple. It's 1 damage, and that means he has 1 AP left, and he's probably going to go for a pin. Even though an Ogre is weight 3, but if he's unconscious, it's still just 1 copper, isn't it? Need to double check for heavy characters. Yep, just double checking, page 28. I was second guessing myself. It doesn't matter the weight of the wrestler. If they're unconscious, they roll 1 copper. That's all there is to it. You get an extra copper, plus 1 for each of your weight in general, but plus 1 if you have stamina remaining, and plus a second copper if you have full stamina. So the size or weight 3 wrestler could roll up to 5 if someone tried to pin them at full health. Such as it is though, it is the weight of the Orc versus 1. Well, he rolled 1, so this is a blank. Okay, fair enough. That poor Ogre has just been pinned to a count of 3 by the Orc Grappler, and is out there, leaving just Granite on the field, making this basically an inevitability. But he does have full health, so I guess we'll see what happens, although he's already activated. So all that's left now is the Troll and the Brawler. Oh, and for getting someone out of the ring, he gets to try and do his crowd please. Are they still on his side? They aren't. They actually booed that. They booed a tiny, well, relatively tall, actually, orc picking up and throwing an ogre out of the ring. They, for some reason, were not on his side there. So of those two, the orc brawler activate first, moving back 1 and then spending 2 AP on Tawar, which is 3 copper plus 1, so he rolled 4 for that. It's just a basic 1 damage rope attack, but if there was adjacent enemies, he would do 1 damage to them. Granite successfully blocked that with his 2 gold plus 1, so he rolled 5. Then he tried to do just a basic brawl attack, which is 2 silver, 1 copper. He managed to get 6 there against Gromit, I was going to call him there, Granite's 5. So he managed to do 1 whole stamina damage to his 10, I believe he does have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, he's 12 or something. So he's down to 11, which isn't much. He still has some AP left, although it is risky doing basic brawls against Granite, because if he fails them, his Stone Skin passive deals 1 to him. So he's probably not going to do anything else there. Yeah, I think we're just going to pass it over to the Troll, who has a chance to do damage. So the Troll moved into position to be adjacent to Granite, and then immediately tried to do his Crowd Pleaser for 1 AP and succeeded. His Crowd Pleaser reads, this wrestler's brawl attacks deal 2 damage until the end of its next activation, so his next turn will also be boosted. And he rolls gold 2 silver versus 2 gold plus 1, so he's still at a disadvantage, I think. But he did actually manage to get through on the first one, so that is 2 more damage to Granite, which puts him down to 9 health remaining for him. And he still has 1 EP left, because he has 3 in total, and his Crowd Pleaser costs 1 because his popularity 1. So he is going to do another one. Just had to cover this here first because of the dice being used. Well, he pushed his luck and it didn't pay off. A reversal was in fact done against him with a 7 versus a 4, meaning that he took just 1 additional damage, I think. Oh no, it doesn't even do additional damage, it just ends his turn instantly. So he didn't take any damage, sorry, but that was the last thing he was doing anyway. But Granite managed to withstand. Top of turn 4 already with just Granite standing. I think this happened in the last match he was in as well. He's the last man standing for Kaiser's Palace. He isn't even with them, he's a free agent, but either way he had to go first with his dex roll. But the Green Bruisers said to Goba, hey, pressure I win button, so his 3 gold means that they are indeed going first. Although Granite is super tough though, it'd be really hard to get him down, but it's whether or not he can do anything. If it's still looking hopeless at the end of this turn, we'll probably just call it there regardless rather than playing the final one, because money value there's no chance anyway. But we'll just see if anyone can do anything incredible this turn. There is a slight plan. Well, step 1 of the plan was getting Goba out of the way of the turnbuckle, and he did that by spending 1 to climb it and then spending 3 on devastating 364 drop, which is devastating. Forgotten what devastating does again. Oh yeah, it's the one that hits everyone around, so that's not relevant because there's no one else to hit where he landed. He wanted to clear Granite. It has a range of 5 anyway, but again, as long as you reach your target, you can choose any adjacent square to them as the point at which you land. It's 1 gold, 1 silver. He rolled very well on that, almost the best you can. The most possible would be 4 on that and 3 on that. Granite rolled 3 plus 1 though for 4. So no beatdown, not that you can do that with a devastating attack anyway, but it did get through against him for 3 damage, leaving him on 6 stamina remaining, so that is a big hit. He does get to retaliate now because he has to activate, so we'll see what he can do. Well, there's only so much he can do. For his passive, the face heal turn, he chose to be a face, so his attack becomes 2 gold plus 1, better than his 3 silver in theory. He rolled only a total of 3 for his first attack against the Orc Brawler here, who actually did successfully block it on his gold and his silver and copper. The next one though, that got through for a total, well, it did 8 in total when you add on the plus 1 versus a defensive 1, so he beat him by 7, so that is a heck of a beatdown. Does 1 damage base, plus 2 damage and knockdown, but he had 3 stamina left anyway. So that is 1 unconscious Orc Brawler. and with his 1 AP remaining, because he's done 2 brawl attacks and he has 3 AP, he's immediately going for that pin, and it's 3 copper versus, well, yeah, you can't beat 5 on 1 copper, so yeah, it was a blank anyway. So the Orc Brawler is actually out of there without getting to activate, so he is out of there. Does the passive kick in? Sorry, not the passive, the crowd pleaser for pinning someone kick in? Yes, it does. On this wrestler's next activation, it may choose both options on the face heal turn. That's probably not going to matter. So the troll didn't actually get to do what he wanted to do. He wanted to get to the turnbuckle and do his turnbuckle attack, which is just hilarious. It's called Troll Toll. It's 4 damage base and rolls 3 gold. Very hard to set up, but ridiculously powerful. He couldn't reach it with his movement and where Granite was. So instead he just got aligned with him and then spent all 3 of his AP on a Blue Thunder, 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 copper. And even with the +1, managed to get through. No beatdown or anything like that though. It does do 3 damage though, which leaves Granite on 3 stamina remaining. And he does get shoved 5, which means he hits into Goba, and Goba, I presume, has to attack him. So that would be 2 silver thanks to that event card, plus the copper for it being a rope attack. Oh, it wouldn't be a rope attack. Well, this isn't good if he gets to actually defend against it, because he just rolled E1. So this might actually turn out bad, because here's the defense roll. That would be 5, so he beat him by 4, so it's a reversal. I guess he saw him coming. It's just his activation ends immediately. I'm not sure if that's how it works. In terms of like getting shoved into an enemy wrestler, because presumably they would team up and both hit, but in this instance it doesn't matter because his turn, well, Goba's already activated and the troll's turn is over. And finally the Orc Grappler just moved into position. He's not going to do anything. He doesn't want to fruitlessly throw punches at Granite. Oh, because Granite, again, if you fail a brawl attack against him, he deals 1 damage back, so Goba has actually taken 1 damage of his 5. So that is something to consider. Forgot to mention the troll at the top of his turn there healed 1 damage, so he's got 6 stamina remaining. It will just basically come down to this final turn real quick. So you know what? Let's quickly do it. Let's knock it out and see how it actually ends. Considering that Granite managed to get someone out of the ring there, he might manage to get someone else. It's still not going to swing the win for them unless it's the. No, even if it was the troll, they still wouldn't. But you know, let's do it for fun. So the top of turn 5, Granite almost took it. He rolled the best possible result he can roll in his dex roll, and Goba was picked again, and he almost whiffed it by getting that 1 in 6 chance of a blank on a gold die, but he did get it 4 versus 3, so he's going to be activating first before Granite gets one last swing in to try and do something before we end the match. Well, although it looks like he didn't move, he actually did. He moved up over to here, paid 1 to go into the turnbuckle, and then paid 2 or 3, however much, to do his 360 force drop with Devastating, and didn't do enough. Got 3 versus a total defense roll of 6, but there's no reversals or beatdowns on a Devastating attack, so Granite just took it to the back of the head and can still keep fighting. Granite is not going down without a fight. He spent his first AP, and also his crowd pleaser means he's both a face and a heal this turn, so his grapples and attacks are boosted. He started by doing just a brawl right here into the Orc Grappler, getting a total of 5 because it's +1 versus 0, meaning that he did +1 damage and shove 2, so 2 damage in total, leaving the Orc Grappler on 3 and pushed him away. He then did another brawl attack, also getting the same result, 5, this time going into the Troll, who also managed to roll absolutely nothing on his defense roll, meaning he was beaten by 5 as well, so he took 2 damage, leaving him on 4 stamina. Shoved 2 though, so he's bounced off the rope, and now Granite gets to throw an attack against him. So we're just going to do that live and see what it is. It is plus copper as well, so it's 3 silver plus copper, although... Oh, actually his attack is different now though, right? His attack would be the 2 gold instead of... Yep, so still get the copper, which as it turns out is 0, but it's 2 gold plus 1, so he actually rolled 5 against 5. So it doesn't matter, that was a 2. So unfortunately the shove didn't benefit him any more beyond that. He's done what he can, he's probably now about to get sat on. I so badly wanted the troll to do the troll toll to finish the match. He can't actually do it in a turn in which he climbs the turnbuckle because he only has 3 AP. Climbing the turnbuckle costs 1 and doing the troll toll costs 3, so you'd have to plan ahead. or have someone who synergizes and in some way gives him an AP that he can use when he activates. So such as it is, he just did Blue Thunder again, gold, silver, bronze, managed to roll well with it, getting 6, up against a total of 5 on the defense roll from Granite. Does mean it does full damage though, which is 3, so that knocks him out. So the shove doesn't really matter, plus he'd get stopped by Goba there anyway, and that means it just comes down to then spending his, oh, he doesn't have any AP, one of them spending AP and doing the pin. I guess it is feasible that they would fail because Goba, oh no, Goba's already went, hasn't he? So it just comes down to can the grappler get him. He would just walk up to him. It's 2 copper dice versus 1 because Granite is knocked out. So let's see. He rolled 2. You can attempt it twice. 2 versus 2. He'll do it again. 3 versus 3. He has 4 AP in total, but presumably you still have to check if it's dirty on the 3rd attempt. So is he allowed to do it? No, he's not. So actually Granite stays in the ring, doesn't get pinned, technically isn't defeated, but that does take us to the end of the game. So at the true end of the match, that's the end of turn 5, Granite refused to yield and leave the ring one way or the other. He's just become a sedentary rock there now. He's not doing anything else, but he's also not conscious, so for the purposes of working out who has the most value left in the ring, he counts for 0. You have to be conscious. So technically Kaiser's Palace scored 0 anyway, and the troll is worth, let's see, 275k, Goba is 325k, and the grappler is 200k, so that's like 775 or 600, something like that. Either way, they definitely win because they're going up against a score of 0. So Kaiser's Palace got a little destroyed there. Goba is a very interesting utility piece, and that Hyper Trainer event was definitely very, very helpful because it makes his 2 terrible stats really, really good. Not on par with his dex and defense, but still pretty good. And his ability to just move an enemy wrestler 3 squares is also really useful. Doesn't have a range on it, just pick an enemy wrestler and immediately move them 3 squares in any direction. So that level of manipulation is also really interesting. He's cool. Anyway, that is going to do it for another showing of Rumbleslam on the channel. I sincerely hope you enjoyed, and if you would like to support what we do here on the channel in general, please do consider becoming a channel member, checking out the channel sponsor, or pressing that thanks button. It all helps out. It's all reinvested in the channel to keep this possible, and I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, ta for now.